Hi, it's Scott. ROCKFILE back with another podcast review. Going to talk about the brand new 4K edition of one of my favorite movies, Outland from 1981. This is one of those things, perception is everything. I think everybody's seen this movie, and then I find out, like my boss, he's like, I've never even heard of this movie. I'm like, okay, well, let's start at the beginning. In 1981, a science fiction movie came out called Outland. It was basically High Noon in space. Peter Hyams, who directed this, he directed 2010, he directed Capricorn 1. If you haven't seen those, I highly recommend those. He's also a director of photography, but he didn't direct photography on this movie. Had the idea to do a Western. Studio said, don't do a Western. Westerns are dead. This was, 79, 80 at the time he's thinking about it, and came up with a script of basically a marshal going to a mining colony in space and encountering kind of corruption there and having to deal with that and deal with some family problems and stuff and transporting it into space. And the whole idea of it caught the eye of Sean Connery, and he wanted to be in it. Peter Hyams said in an interview on this new 4K that Sean Connery wanted to be in your movie. How often do you get to work with Sean Connery? So they made the movie. Originally about a $12 million budget, probably went on to be about $14 million. A lot of practical effects and miniatures. Released around my birthday in 1981, the movie only grossed about $20 million. But over time, a movie starring Sean Connery, Peter Boyle, Francis Sternhagen, and James B. Sikking has got quite the audience these days. Enough so that the UK company Arrow has commissioned a brand new 4K release. Fully remastered from the original film negative, 35 millimeter, also lossless sound, 5.1. Didn't get an Atmos upgrade, but still the best it's ever sounded. I got to be honest, I have probably seen this movie more than any other movie almost in my lifetime. I mean, yes, I watch James Bond movies over and over. I watch Star Wars movies and Lord of the Rings and several others. So some of the comic book movies I've watched over and over, but through every release of this, I mean, I read the book when I was in high school. I saw the movie when I was in high school. It came out on VHS later when I started collecting VHS. I've owned it on VHS, DVD. We finally got it widescreen. There was a widescreen VHS, but I don't think I ever owned that. Those were pretty rare at the time. But I've owned it on DVD. I've had the Blu-ray for years, and the Blu-ray just has a trailer on it. And it's not the best transfer. The movie has always looked dingy and dirty, but it was meant to be that way. There's a lot of smoky scenes. There's a lot of, this is a mining colony with hundreds of people slaving to mine titanium. It's a titanium mine. Because the movie came out not long after Alien, Warner Brothers felt they needed a hook. And so the big thing that was featured in trailers, and a lot of people remember from the movie, is that I don't want to give away spoilers. For some reason, there are people working in the mining facility who go a little nuts. And in the beginning, a guy cuts open his suit, and physics-wise, a certain number of things would have to happen for this to happen in real life, but he explodes, and it's very visually stunning. And that kind of became the hook of the film, something that everybody remembers. Oh, that's the movie where astronauts blow up or whatever. And there's some other scenes of that level of violence in the film, which gave it a more realistic, a more grounded kind of thing. Because at the time you were like, well, if you were mining several hundreds of meters down into a mine in Io, outside of Jupiter, if you cut your suit open, would you, explode? Anyway. That being aside, this is a very grounded take on a new marshal in town, and he's got to clean things up, and the town doesn't want to be cleaned up. It's a very successful town. I think Sean Connery is perfect in the film. Rewatching this, by the way, so I was saying that I've watched this movie more than any. It's not the best movie ever made, and it's not my favorite movie, but for some reason, it's one of the easiest movies to go back and just watch. It fits a lot of the things I like in a movie. The story of good and evil, a story of one guy against the system kind of thing. It's got some science fiction in it, it's got some cool space visuals. So watching it again last night, I'm like, oh, please let this be a good 4K, because this is a movie that I can just put on any time. If it's on, I would just watch it back in the day. And these days that I own it, I've pulled it out more times than I've probably pulled out just about anything else, because, well, it just scratches whatever itch I need at the time. It has checks a few boxes. I don't know. We all have those kind of movies, right? For some people, it's Ferris Bueller or Lost Boys. And I love those movies as well, but I don't pull them out as often as I pulled this one out. Maybe it's because I love Sean Connery and I think he's really good in the role. I think Francis Sternhagen is a standout. And James B. Sicking, who was on a TV show called Hill Street Blues, he's really good in the movie, too. And Peter Boyle, most people remember him as the monster in Young Frankenstein. He's really good as the corporate stooge, the general manager of the mining facility, or may not be a good guy. It's got some assassins coming to kill him type storylines going on in here, some plot twists in it. Nothing is, totally original and like nothing you've ever seen, except for maybe people blowing up. But it's all really well done and really well filmed. And Peter Hyams was really doing very well at the time with his films. He never got to the level of the big 5 or 6, the Scorseses and the Spielbergs of the time. But I've always found his movies to be quite entertaining. Especially, he's good with conspiracy theory thrillers, like Capricorn 1 was an interesting one that had a bit of a sci-fi slant there. But watching the 4K from Arrow, wow. The movie has never looked like this. I put it on last night because really I need to be it's October. I need to be watching horror movies, but this has some pretty gory stuff in it, so we'll call it a horror movie for that. It opens with these credits that's very slow, similar to Alien. The logo kind of morphs in, lights up as they list the credits, and it looks awful. It looks just like the Blu-ray, and I'm like, oh no, please tell me this isn't just going to look exactly like. And then it went from a scene, right then we get a space scene of Io and the mining colony, and the colors are incredibly vivid, and it's tight. Like, things used to jitter and shake in some of the special effects back then, and I've seen multiple copies of this movie. Everything has been, it's just tight and right. It looks real almost. This was the first movie that used something called Introvision. It's where they could put foreground, midground, and background stuff all in the same camera shot for the first time. This was the first movie to really try that, and it made things look more realistic. You have people walking around basically in miniature sets. We do that easily now with computers and such, but this was the first time you could do it in camera, so it was very pioneering in that. And it makes a lot of the special effects hold up now because they're all practical. Not everything was computer generated. The planet was made a certain way. You can the planets and that kind of stuff. But I got to tell you, once it switches to the space views, you realize how great this transfer really is. They went back to the old film negative, restored it, did the HDR 10 and Dolby Vision pass over it. It looks fantastic. Some of those scenes just pop like, is this a brand new movie? And again, because they're using practical effects mixed in with stuff in camera, it just looks like you're looking at a mining colony sitting on Io outside of Jupiter with other things in it just looks amazing. Now, I said there's a lot of smoky scenes, but there's also things like close-ups, flashing lights, controls, screens, a lot of things to tell you this is a 4K transfer. Grain's handled very well. I mean, like I said, this has always been a grungy-looking film, but it looks fantastic. Now, watching the extras, which there are quite a few, and everything's on the 4K. You just get a 4K in the package. One of the extras that does an essay, they really bump things up, like the contrast and the brightness. Wasn't very indicative for what the movie looks like, but I watched the extras after, so I don't know why I even mentioned that, but keep that in mind. I just watched it and went, wow, that doesn't look like the movie I just watched, but they really boosted it to look good. I mean, it looks nice, but it doesn't look like the movie I just watched. The movie looks better than it did when I saw it in theaters. I saw it in theaters when I was in high school. Like I said, I've owned every version of it. It's never looked this good. There's a scene with some blood dripping in zero gravity, dripping up. The color of the blood, the detail in the scene, there's a lot of that because everything was on practical sets with practical effects. Everything just, well, it stands up to camera being that close to it and things being restored to this level. Really impressed. I was expecting to just go, it looks, better than the Blu-ray. No, it crushes the Blu-ray. Now, in the package you get, it's got a nice thick slipcover like these UK ones do. Very bright colors for what it's trying to depict on the front. It's got different artwork on the actual case, but you can flip that around to the old artwork if you wish, and that's something I normally do with an Arrow release, but the front version, the version that it comes with, is different than the slipcover, and that's different than what Arrow normally does. There's a two-sided poster in there with the new artwork, which I really like. It's got this kind of retro feel, but it's very colorful, and it fits in with like the logos and stuff that are in the movie. I picked up on that. And on the flip side, it's got the original artwork. There's also a booklet in there with some really interesting stuff. The extras are on the same disc. Like I said, you only get one 4K disc, but there's a couple hours of stuff. There's almost an hour with Peter Hyams, who's the writer-director. There was about 20 minutes with everybody else, 3 or 4 more people. There's an essay or two. It really is a nice package if you are a fan of the film. This is the one to get. It's currently running about $30 from Amazon and other shops, so I pre-ordered it. That's about what I paid, and I would highly recommend that if you're a fan of the film. This is just a go-to for me. It's like my dad always liked Jeremiah Johnson. He knew it wasn't Gone with the Wind. He knew it wasn't the best movie ever, but it was one of those movies he could just put on at any time and watch. Well, this is kind of that one for me. Just about any time I could put on Outland, because most people will, it's a Sean Connery movie I've never seen. It's kind of got this Marshall against the, system storyline, even though it's got some sci-fi trappings. The assassins they send to him are pretty terrible shots, but other than that, I really still don't find any problems with this. It's a movie that I read the book to, the novelization, and know the ins and outs of everything going on. I didn't miss a thing in the theater. I didn't miss a thing now. I think it's a good story, well told. And if you're into the Taylor Sheridan kind of stuff these days, just the grittiness of it and the corruption and stuff like that, you're going to find that in this film. I think it's really well done. Arrow knocked it out of the park. I'm super happy with it. I wish it got one of those hard boxes with the big book in it and all that, but I understand we're talking about kind of a cult classic here. But one of my favorite all-time movies. You can get it now in this Arrow 4K edition. Highest recommendation, one of the best of the year. Wow, they really knocked it out of the park. Thank you very much, Arrow. Scott, I'm ROCKFILE. More podcasts are on the way. Please like, share, and subscribe, and have a spectacular day.